live on YouTube. A few hours before the eclipse, for the lunar eclipse, I'm sitting here in Canada, Toronto, Canada. And I'm going to be talking about the Ashadas, Purva Ashada and Uttara Ashada, these nakshatras in Sagittarius and early Capricorn. And these Ashadas are important in this eclipse and this karma that we're dealing with. And the Ashadas mean, literally the word means victory. And we have the Purva Ashada and the Uttara Ashada, which are sections of the sky between Sagittarius and Capricorn. And Sagittarius, the sign, begins with the nakshatra of Mula. Mula, which means root, the root system, the planting of seeds, the uprooting of old, worn out, fearful teachings. That's at the beginning of Sagittarius. Right at the end of Scorpio, after Scorpio, we have the Mula, roots, uprooting, digging down, tearing out the stress and difficulty. And then after we rip it out and pull it out in Mula by the roots, then we plant and plant seeds. Then we need to water those seeds. In Purva Ashada, we are tearing out. In Purva Ashada, we are watering those seeds, nurturing those seeds. And it's this love and devotion of that nakshatra that allows the seeds we've planted to begin to grow. So the seeds don't become a tree until we nurture them and care for them. Then they start to grow more and more, and then eventually they become a large tree. So the first nakshatra after we plant the seeds in Mula is called Purva Ashada. And the deity is Appas, which is the god of the ocean. And that ocean is akin to devotion and to love and service. Think of what has to happen when we plant any kind of seed. We have to then nurture that seed, and then, only then will it grow. Think of a child. Think of your life. Think you starting as a seed, which, by the way, you did. You started as a seed when the sperm met the egg. And your mother's body nurtured that with love and devotion, and then eventually you popped out. And then you were a baby, and your life was a seed. And it had to be nurtured. And relative to how well it was nurtured in its early life, the early victories, the early care that was taken has so much to do with your later victories. We already know this in behavioral psychology and whatnot, that the earliest, the further back you go in our upbringing and in how we were nurtured, that shows more, it has more impact the further back you go. So those early victories in life and that early care that was given in some ways is the most important to setting to establishing a framework to our later success. And again, I'm talking about the Ashadas, Purva Ashada and Uttara Ashada. And the Ashadas mean the victory. The early victory, Purva Ashada, and then the Uttara Ashada, which is the later victory. So the Purva Ashada has to do with nurturing and watering those seeds of truth through devotion and service. Again, this is a part of Sagittarius. Sagittarius it's ruled by Jupiter, and it's that sign of inspiration and purpose. And this higher inspiration and purpose starts with ripping out the darkness, planting seeds in Mula, then nurturing and watering those seeds in Purva Ashada so that they begin to sprout. But if they're going to grow into a large tree and be like a real fortification in your life, it's going to take more than just this nurturing and this caretaking. That's going to give the strength and establish the possibility. But for it to become an eternal and solid structure in itself, you need the Uttara Ashada, which shows the later victories. And Uttara Ashada is ruled by what are called Vishwadevas, or the universal gods. And these universal gods are things like Dharma, which is truth, Kama, which is desire and passion and joy, Kala, which is time, Karma, which is action. Those are four of the big ones, right? Dharma, Karma, Kala, Kama. And then there are others as well. And these are universal forces, the universal gods is what the translation is, Vishwadevas. And these Vishwadevas take the possibility and the nurturing of Purva Ashada and guarantee that victory, that later victory. The later victory comes after we've nurtured the seeds in Purva Ashada. Then we make a commitment to their fructification. And we're not just devoted, but we're working hard, which is the karma. We put forth the effort. We don't just put forth the effort today. We keep putting forth the effort. Kala, which is time. We keep putting in the effort over and over and over again. And we're not just putting in any effort, we're putting in the right effort, which is called Dharma, which is the truth, the things that we're supposed to be doing. We can just do anything. It's not just enough to, do something. Don't just sit there, do something. That's the kind of Western ethos. No, don't just do something. Sit there is better. Unless you know what the hell you're doing, then do something. If you don't know what you're doing, sit there and wait until you find out what you're doing, until you know what it is, which is Dharma, so that you have the truth, Dharma, then do something. Don't just act based on ignorance. Wait till you know what you're doing, Dharma, then take action. Then once you know what you're doing and you're taking the proper action, you're doing it because you love it, because you enjoy it, because it gives you fulfillment and happiness, which is kama, or desire, passion. So yes, we're supposed to have passion in life. We're supposed to enjoy and love what we're doing. Just like I'm doing here. I'm here in Toronto, Canada with my guru, Amma. And I'm doing this first because I wanted to talk about this first because it's important for the eclipse that's coming today and tomorrow to understand these Ashadas, these victories. And I see there's some people here. Let me know, says Namaskar. Judy Jones says, thank you for shedding light on Vedic astrology for me. Yolanda Hernandez says, I like watching and hearing your Vedic astrology. Amy Eager says, nice to see you here. Wonderful. Nice to be here. This is you can see my Ashada, my victory in life, my victories over darkness has allowed me to make a living doing astrology and helping people because of the things that I'm showing you and I'm telling you. And when we talk about these Ashadas and we talk about this victory, what does it mean to be victorious? Victorious over what? Again, we all might have this vision of something like even a victory, even a small victory. It doesn't have to be even big victories, but it's ultimately like the great victory over death, which is the real victory that we're trying to establish. Leisha is here. She said, good morning. Good morning, Leisha. Nice to see you. But that victory over death is literally played out in many smaller victories first. Victory over our ignorance. So what do we have to do? We need to uproot and pull out the previous tree that was built, because we're always believing what we think is true. We believe it until we pull it out and plant new seeds. Super Spaceman says victory against self-doubt. That's certainly one. But we're always believing, like right now, whatever it is that you believe it. It's not like you're going, oh no, I don't know what I believe. You believe whatever it is. And you have to assess whether or not those things that you're believing in any area, you believe certain things about relationships, about your work, about what you're capable of, about what life is in general. These are four of the big ones. About why you're here and what all this means. You have some belief. It's probably not correct. So again, the way to change it is you need to pull out that tree, that belief that you're in a tree looking down at the world. It's grown high and you're looking down at the world. And this perch upon which you've placed yourself is something that you're believing is real, is true, and so you have to uproot that teaching and plant new seeds. So we uproot it in Mula, we uproot that old tree, plant new seeds. Then we nurture those seeds in Purva Ashada, water those seeds, the god Apis, ocean, devotion, love, faith, just like a parent raises a child with just this selfless love. And then we have to, then later, based on how much of that selfless love and nurturing we were given, we have to then focus our attention through things like time, truth, passion, desire, and action, right? Karma and dharma, which is action based on truth, and then kala, which is over a long period of time, and then the desire and the joy is found then. So these things show up in many different forms, in the micro and the macro. For example, I've started playing tennis again, and even my victory, even like my, let's say, victories in a tennis match, right? They're going to come because I've planted seeds. First of all, I like, the sort of planting of seeds is like, first you join the club. and you make space, you uproot something else in my, I've uprooted something else in my life to create the time and the space for, to actually play tennis and to actually learn. So I've uprooted something, made space for it. Then I have to practice and I have to nurture the love of the game. Because when you first start and you're rusty, you're not so good, you make mistakes, you look a little embarrassed, you got to get your feet under you, you're just kind of, but if you're devoted to it and you love it, then you just keep going, right? You get back into shape slowly over time. And then eventually, as you get your shots better and you play more and you commit to it and then you start to practice, then you start to become victorious. Your shots get better. And it's funny because I joined the club last year and I hadn't played in literally about 30 years. I mean, I played in high school quite regularly. Then I played a couple times when I was in my 20s. I'm talking about tennis. But then I literally hadn't played. I think I played once since I was 25 or something. It was a long time. I'm talking about almost 30 years. I played like once or twice. So at first I was just totally rusty. I could hardly remember how to even hit. Not even hit the ball, but then you're off balance, no footwork, no shots. You're just trying not to fall down and try to just get the ball back. And there were people that I played after I had been, the first like 10 matches I played, it was just so bad I could barely get the ball over. And then by and by, like the next time I played them, the second time I played them, I was about twice as good. The third time I played them, I was almost beating them. By the fifth or sixth time I played them, I was beating them every game. So progress comes really rapidly when you start to commit to it and you start playing regularly. Again, so that's the Uttar Ashada, the later victory. The early victory is in nurturing and the love of, let's say, the love of the game, but then you got to keep playing. If it's just, oh, I love it now, I love it today, but then I don't play, then it doesn't improve either. So this is the Uttar Ashada, is the later victory. And this is the section of the sky where Sagittarius becomes Capricorn. Now, again, this is the purely sidereal integrity of the zodiac. And again, you can understand this. Again, in every Vedic astrology text, it says that Ashwini and Aries are aligned at the beginning. It only needs to be said once, and then that aligns every nakshatra with every Rashi, which means at the beginning of all the fire signs, this is where the nakshatra schema resets. And of course, it makes sense. It's too perfect to not be what they intended, right? So again, at the beginning of Sagittarius, you have Mula, then Purva Ashada, then the first pada of Uttar Ashada is at the last degrees of Sagittarius. Then the last three padas of Uttar Ashada are in Capricorn. So you see this crossover very naturally in all the nakshatras, especially in the, there are 9 nakshatras that bridge the, the rashis between the water, between the fire and earth signs and the earth and air signs and the air and water signs. So this one is between Sagittarius and Capricorn. So you can literally see how this nakshatra, again, it's the same section of the sky, whether it's a Rashi or a nakshatra, but the nakshatra portion shows the qualities of how Sagittarius becomes Capricorn. And again, it doesn't have to be explicitly stated to be implicit and unambiguous. Only a fool would not see that this is explicit. Just because they don't explicitly say, now these nakshatras that are in between 2 rashis are the qualities of the sky that bridge the 2 rashis. Again, you don't need it to be explicitly stated unless you just have zero capacity for rational thought, because it's the same section of sky. And you can clearly see how the qualities of Uttar Ashada, which is these inspirations and this inspiring purpose that just occurred leads into the commitment and effort and work and duty of Capricorn, which is the later victory, which guarantees the victory. And again, all those qualities of the Vishwadevas show what guarantees the victory, shows how the teachings and inspiration of Sagittarius becomes the structures and the commitments and duties of Capricorn. So these structures and duties of Capricorn come from the inspirations of Sagittarius, and this nakshatra of Uttarashada, the later victory, shows these attributes and these virtues that make that possible. The desire, the kama, the joy and the love, the kala, the commitment through time, the dharma, the intelligence and discrimination to understand the truth, and the karma, the action to put it into place and keep working at it. That's what brings the great lessons in life. And it's what takes that seed that was planted in Mula, after we uproot those dark teachings that can come from the lower qualities of Scorpio. We have to uproot these dark teachings, plant these seeds of truth and hope, Sagittarius. Then we nurture and water those seeds in Purva Ashada. Then we commit to that success and that victory in Uttarashada, which becomes Capricorn. Then it becomes a structure and a solid thing in our life that gives us money and structure and this, solace, solitude. I use the example at the beginning about my work. I'm blessed to have my work that I'm doing. But first, it was something that inspired me. Who would think back when I started that I would be an astrologer? Back then, I didn't think that was possible. But I loved it, and it inspired me. So I decided to try it. But first, I had to pull out by the roots all of that darkness and fear that said, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. Of course, I thought that like everybody thinks stuff. What makes me think I'm going to be an astrologer? That's not a very good career choice. By the way, it's probably getting better and better these days because of social media and stuff. But I started in 2001, 2002. Wasn't even that much. It was a lot harder. But anyway, so I could have been dominated by the fear and paranoia and those qualities of Scorpio that says, it's too hard. You can't do that. But no, instead, I tried it. So I had to pull those dark teachings out by the roots, that sort of paranoia, and plant those new seeds. In Mula, I planted those seeds, and because I loved it, and I was devoted to it, and I was devoted to my guru, devoted to my guru's teachings, and I laid it basically at the feet of the guru, the feet of my guru, Amma, which is where I am now in Toronto to see her. And I basically just was humble before it and said, if this is something that, I can do, then please make it show up, and I'll keep trying. And I kept nurturing those seeds. I was devoted to its possibility and and then I kept getting smarter and smarter about how to do it and just kept at it. And eventually it started to work. So Nisha said, why did I say lower Scorpio energy? Because the lower Scorpio energy is the paranoia and fear and stress of those things that we can't control. Higher Scorpio energy is having the emotional courage to push through those things. But the lower Scorpio energy is I love Amma too, Tira. I'm in Toronto now seeing her. I'll be going over to the hall in a bit. Yes, Amma is amazing. And Amma's my guru. And here on Guru Poornima, usually we have the full moon is in Purva Ashada or Uttarashada. It's one of those two nakshatras when we have Guru Poornima. This is also why I'm mentioning the Ashadas now. Thank you. The reason I'm also mentioning the Ashadas is because the Guru Poornima is when we have the full moon in the month of Ashad. There's a reason it's called Ashad, because the full moon winds up being either in Purva Ashada or Uttar Ashada. So this full moon at this time of the year is in the month of Ashad, which is victory. And that's why this full moon at this time of year is the Guru Poornima, where we celebrate the Guru. Because it's usually in Sagittarius, it's in one of the Ashadas. So even if it's not in Sagittarius and it's in Capricorn, that would mean that it's in Uttar Ashad, where this inspiration and purpose becomes the commitments and structures of Capricorn. And so this becomes important today and tomorrow because we're having this full moon now it'll be in Uttar Ashad, and it's the Guru Purnima. I'm here with my guru, and I wanted to share this with everyone. There's a few questions. I'm not going to really take many more because actually I'm going to go over to the hall. One about how can I relate the later victory to Capricorn in Shravana. Well, Shravana is not about the victory, it's something else. So I could just keep going and explain every nakshatra after that, which I've done in my courses, by the way. I have courses on nakshatras at my website that you can get where I explain the procession of the nakshatras through all the rashis. But today it's about the Ashadas and the victory and the great victory over our ignorance and our darkness that we celebrate on Guru Poornima. And I will tell you this, all of the benefit that I can give and that I've been able to give and that I've been able to share, and any grace that might come through me is not me. It comes through my Guru. It's from my Guru's grace. And I am not being humble about that. I'm being truthful, because the thing we need to understand about Guru's teachings and God's grace is that that's the best part of who we are. And it's the part that literally comes from the divine sources. We have the divine connection within us, but the divine connection is somewhat dormant unless it is activated through devotion. If not to a living guru in the body, then to a guru who has come before, whose practices and teachings you actually put into practice and share. And in that way, I've been able to be of help to some people through astrology or other things. All of that is the grace that comes from the guru, not from me, because my ego will mess up everything. My personality, my nature, like everyone's nature, is to make a mess of everything. Be frustrated, irritated, this thing, that thing, this negative thing, that negative thing. So I'm so blessed to have actually met a being who is an embodiment of the purity that I only dream of embodying and sometimes get a taste of, sometimes get a glimpse of. Not just in her presence, but then when I do the sadhana, when I do the spiritual practice, now when I do the spiritual practices, which I had been doing decades before I ever met my guru, decades before I ever met Amma, I had been doing yoga and asanas and spiritual practices and pranayama, but they were all somewhat dry. It was kind of like a scientist in a laboratory. It definitely gave results. I definitely got deep glimpses and experiences, but it wasn't until I met the guru and met someone who is a living embodiment of those practices that I actually saw the difference between what I was doing and what was possible, between the practices and the breakthroughs and my potential and my destiny. Not just potential, but destiny. Because that is your destiny. Your destiny is to be enlightened at some point, in some way, somewhere, on some planet, in some dimension. And when we can meet a guru and receive the grace and actually get the teachings, and it somehow penetrates our cement head ego and penetrates somewhere where we actually see it and get what the teachings mean, that's the highest grace. And on Guru Purnima, the full moon of the Guru, which is today and into tomorrow, that's why we celebrate it on that day, because it's the full moon, usually in Sagittarius, like it is now, and in one of the Ashadas, Purvashada or Uttarashada, guarantees the victory over death, over darkness, over ignorance, over the ego. And so with that, I hope you have a great day. And there's questions here about a beginner's course. I'm going to put it up here. Let me put it up because first of all, someone can go to my website. And there's all kinds of courses. This one in particular, a discount. Well, let me just. All right, so here's the website. I don't have the link. Oh, wait a second. What is it? Maybe it's this. Anyway, no, I'm not pulling it up. But so what you should do is join my email list, and you'll get information about the best beginning course, the best place to start. I'm putting it up on my website now, actually, just the best beginning course. But so I wish you all a happy Guru Poornima. Oh, so actually, you know what? I'm gonna answer this question. Great, but the Guru is actually within. I mean, Guru represents, embodies your inner wisdom. So this is a philosophy, and it's true. And what typically happens is people say this, and if the Guru is within, then great. So how much are you embodying the Guru within? How much are you actually living to your full capacity of compassion, love, grace, wisdom? I sure don't see many people who are actually embodying their inner Guru, their inner grace, living in accordance with God's grace, Guru, and their true potential. So this is a great philosophy. The ego especially just loves this. Well, but the Guru is within. Guru's within. I'm the Guru. Hey, so I don't have to do any spiritual work because Guru's within. It's just a sham, frankly, because if the Guru was within and we're already an embodiment of it anyway, then why are we suffering so much? Why are we in such darkness? I'm going to link to an article I wrote years ago. Here it is. I just found it, and I'm going to post it. I meant to post it today. I'm going to post it again in honor of Guru Poornima. Right here, it's an article I wrote several years ago, and it's literally called "The Guru is Within and More Blah de Blah Blah Blah." That's literally what the article is called. It's called "The Guru is Within and More Blah de Blah Blah Blah," which goes to show what I think of that whole concept. And again, I do understand the sentiment, of course. And by the way, every great guru says the same thing. The Guru says it. Amma says it. Amma says, don't worship me. But do the practices. Do the practices. So again, I explain this whole concept of why we have the Guru. Why the Guru is so important is because we do not embody the teachings. And the guru is a living embodiment, a living example of what you are aspiring toward. Just like you, people call me guru, which I'm not usually that comfortable with, but I kind of let it happen now because I'm not anyone's salvation, but people who are aspiring to be an astrologer should watch what I'm doing because they would see a model, they would see an example of what an astrologer is, and they could learn from that. It's actually no more complicated than that. You could say, well, my inner guru, I'm already, but saying that we're already a Satguru is like saying, I'm already an astrologer. So why do I need to listen to an astrology guru? Well, but you're not an astrologer yet. I am. And if you want to actually learn how to do it, it's actually good to watch someone who does it. For example, I'm not enlightened. I'm not an enlightened being. Like, for example, Amma is. So if you want to see what they look like and aspire to be that, then watch what they do. That's all. It's actually not even that complicated. It's a very simple thing. And this is why the guru is so important. And I'm not picking on Barbara. It doesn't really matter. I pulled it up because it's a good thing to understand. And I appreciate the question being asked. And Barbara said, I actually have a guru. That's what I'm saying. That's fine. It's not about you, Barbara. So I'm sorry to make it seem personal. It's not. But you did ask the question. And this is a big question a lot of Westerners ask. Read the article, because the article, I really break it down. I break it down, this whole idea of why, especially in the West, this whole concept of guru, oh, worship, oh, you're just too mentally weak to follow a guru. A guru is okay for people who don't know what they're doing, or again, like it's some kind of mental enslavement. And it's absolutely not. It's not a mental enslavement. And by the way, people who say, oh yeah, you're just worshiping a guru because you're weak, go spend a lot of time around an authentic guru and see who's weak. Because I've said this before, it's not easy to be around a real guru. A real teacher is destroying your ego every minute. So people say, oh yeah, I love Amma. Amma's so sweet. Oh, I love this guru. Oh, they're so sweet. And they they go around them once and then they never go back again. Because it might seem very sweet, but the guru is killing you, killing your ego. So again, people have all these false notions. That's why I wrote the article. Because people have all these ideas about how someone like myself would like worship a guru because we're so mentally weak and we want to go there and have this mommy figure and sort of bask in this kind of euphoria. Yeah, right. That ain't what happens. There are some people, of course, but that's not what it is. People spend a lot of time around a great guru like that. They realize that it's not easy. The more time you spend around the guru, an authentic guru, the harder it is, because it works on you and destroys your ego. So we'll leave it at that. And I hope you all have a great day. And speaking of all this guru, I'm going to go see mine now for the next several days. And I hope you have a wonderful Guru Poornima today and into tomorrow. And whatever it is that's inspiring you and the great teachers that have inspired you, may you really get the message and the point of their teachings. That's what Guru Poornima is. It's that our mind is in that state of receptivity and knowing and awareness at that time. The full moon, we're full of that energy. And in this case, we're full of this devotion and capacity to get the guru's teachings. So it's a great time to see through all the false teachings as well. And that includes all the false teachings in the astrology and all that stuff too that you're seeing. Your mind is in a very good state to see that and to honor the true teachers and authentic teachings. So with that, take care and have all the great guru's blessings.